11 years and 11 lakh cars since the Creta has been launched, and we are finally here to welcome the new Hyundai Creta Electric. My name is Dipayan, you're watching Auto Today, and this is our review. And the best place to start the conversation about the new Hyundai Creta Electric, of course, is the design. And what is so special to me is the fact that despite it being an EV and a completely different powertrain and everything different underneath, the silhouette is still instantly recognizable as a present generation Creta, which means that you still get the same LED DRL signature that runs along the bonnet. But right under there, where the grille used to be, is now blacked out, and you get this square pattern along it. You also get a front mounted charging port, and what is really cool is the fact that you get a state of charge indicator as well as a dynamic surround light which changes according to the state of charge. And I think that's a really nice, neat inclusion on the Creta Electric. These vents that you see in the lower half of the bumper are actually active, and they open up only when you start the car to feed cool air to the battery to ensure that you're always running at optimum temperature. We'll tell you a little more about the battery temperature management system, but before that, let's step to the side and tell you what's different in the profile. Now, once you step to the profile, you're going to instantly recognize the silhouette as a present generation Creta, except for the fact that you now have 17-inch alloy wheels that are aero grade, which help cheat the air better and help you get better aerodynamic efficiency with the same silhouette. Of course, the ORVMs now have 360-degree cameras, which are also there on the standard Creta. These not only help for parking assistance, but also for the various ADAS functions, which we will get to when we're driving. But more or less, the silhouette is the same. What is different though is this color, which is exclusive to the Creta Electric. This is one of 10 colors that you can have the Creta Electric in. We'll leave a page for the colors immediately after this so you can check them out. But let's step to the back and see what has changed on this new Creta Electric. And this badge is probably the only thing that's going to tell you that it is an electric Creta and not an ICE Creta from the rear. The design though is more or less the same. You still get the runaround DRL that runs across the back. You get the reversing lights mounted in the bumper and this new pattern for the bumper, which is a slight alteration from the stock bumper that we've seen on the ICE Creta. But otherwise it is more or less the same. And of course you also get this roof mounted spoiler, which adds to the premium appeal and also helps the aerodynamic efficiency of the car overall. But now let's step on the inside and see how much has changed in the cabin from the ICE Creta to the electric. Now step inside the cabin of the Creta Electric and you're going to notice that it's still a very familiar place to be. Of course, you get the same 10.25-inch infotainment and 10.25-inch instrument cluster on this almost infinity-like dash display. They are separated by a bezel, but I don't think that's very obstructive because the bezel comes in place of your blind spot. What is very different in the layout of the cabin, of course, is in place of the transmission tunnel, now you have storage, which is quite significant, and you can put quite a few things in it as well. You also have a backlit space for your wireless charging. You have two cup holders and ventilated seat controls right in the front. But what is different, of course, is the steering wheel, which not only is a different shape with this slightly hexagonal shape, but you also get a new logo in the center with the 4 dots that represent Hyundai in Morse code. And I think that's a really nice, cool feature to have. Of course, behind the steering wheels are paddles, but they're not for shifting, they're for controlling your regen modes. And the maximum regen mode is, of course, when you shift it to that and you shift on the plus pedal, and you have the I pedal function, which allows you to drive with one singular pedal. There is also a slight difference to the way the UI of the instruments are set up. You now get 2 new modes which add some visual appeal. And of course, the shifter is now a column mounted unit right under the steering wheel, which is operated by a twist, which is a nice, cool, very premium addition to the whole electric Creta experience. You do get a storage cubby under here, and aside from having ventilated and 6-way power control seats, you also now have a memory function. Audio is of course by Bose, which is an 8-speaker system designed to give you that ultimate surround sound. But now let's step in the back and see how the Creta Electric fares in terms of space and legroom. Now step into the second row and you are going to notice that the floorboard is slightly higher, but what is so special is the fact that even with the seat back set to my position, because Hyundai have cut out the back seat to create a little more knee room, there is actually plenty of knee room and still plenty of headroom, and with even 3 people there shouldn't be too much shoulders rubbing. I actually have a little more space to move to my left when I'm sitting in here. But that's not what makes the second row so special. There's plenty of bits that will make spending time here a lot better. Of course, you have this really airy effect because of this 2-fold panoramic sunroof, which you also get on the Creta. But the special bits on the Creta Electric are of course this tray table, which also gets a bottle holder for when you're driving, as well as an entertainment holder so you can keep your phone or your tablet and watch your entertainment while you drive along. I think that is a very nice, neat feature to have in the second row. You also get 2 Type-C fast chargers, a place to keep your phone, as well as 2 AC vents. But that's not it either. You also get a Bose function for the front seat, of course on the passenger side. Now here's a situation you're all going to relate to, because we've all been in that situation. You're on a road trip, you're enjoying yourself, and then suddenly you have to send one email. So you grab your laptop and you open it and you realize that you're out of charge. Now on the Creta Electric, that isn't going to be much of a problem, because you have vehicle to load not only outside the vehicle but also inside it, right in the back seat. So you can charge your devices, which is a really nice addition and makes life a whole lot easier, especially once you consider the fact that you actually have a place to put your laptop as well. You plug your laptop in, and finally you have charge as well, which makes working on the go that much easier. And it's not just that, you can charge whatever device you like. You can run a projector, you can run your music system, you can run anything you like, even when you're out camping, right from your vehicle. And that is something that makes an electric car that much more special, and Hyundai have ensured that you don't miss out on the Creta Electric. And an armrest with 2 cup holders. So overall, even though it's an electric, it isn't much of a compromise. There's still plenty of room. It's still a very spacious cabin, and it's a very, very nice place to be. And with these few additional bits, Hyundai have managed to add a whole lot of value to the second row. And not to forget, you also get manual sun blinds, which is a really nice, thoughtful feature that's so useful in India. But when we're talking about storage, of course, this being an electric gets some extra bits. So let's run you around that before we hop into the driver's seat and tell you what it's like to drive. Now, speaking of storage, at the back, you get a manually operated tailgate and 433 liters. But what is really special is the fact that there isn't a space saver. There's a full-size spare underneath this, which makes it all that much better to drive and all that much more practical, because we all know that we hate space savers and we hate using those puncture repair kits on the road. This just makes a whole lot more sense and gives you that sense of peace while you're driving. But being an electric, this is not the only storage. Let's step to the front and check out the additional storage, because this is an EV. Now, being an electric, of course, under the hood isn't a combustion engine, which means that you can now have some storage. Under the hood is a 22-liter frunk, which is quite sizable, and the best part is it is actually waterproof, and they did show us in the presentation that you can keep ice and your cold beverages here for whenever you need them on a road trip. Now that is some really cool features on the Hyundai Creta. Now, of course, it's time to get behind the wheel and get to driving. And now viewers, you're joining me behind the wheel of the new Creta Electric. Of course, this is the long range battery pack, which means you have a 51 kilowatt hour battery, and that means you have a rated range of 470 kilometers, which in the real world should translate to easily above 350 kilometers depending on how and where you're driving. Of course, we spent a large part of this drive on highways, which is a worst case scenario for electric vehicles as far as range is concerned. But still, even after driving 75 kilometers to the shoot location and now 75 kilometers back, we still have about 300 kilometers of range, which means that in the real world, you should easily get 350 to 400 kilometers on this battery pack, which is really good. Now there is of course a smaller battery pack with 42 kilowatt hours, which is rated for a range of about 390 kilometers, which means you should easily get about 300 kilometers in the real world. Now that said, this is one of the nicest EVs to drive, especially if you're coming from an ICE vehicle, from the perspective of the way the throttle is graded. Now, I always say that the throttle in any electric car is your only and primary point of contact, and it's your primary point of understanding how the machine performs. And in the case of the Creta EV, it really works well. In fact, it's graded so well that instantaneous hit of almost overwhelming torque isn't really there. It's more graded, it's more linear in that sense. So it isn't a shock for those coming from a nice vehicle to an EV to drive this. It's not much of a learning curve. It comes easily, it's natural, and I think that is what sets the Creta EV apart from everything else that we've driven to now. That said, it's not like you're lacking on power. This version, which is the larger battery pack, makes 171 bhp, while the smaller battery pack makes about 135, both of which are more than enough for the real world. Of course, Hyundai is yet to release stock figures for this car, but you do get a sense of the torque in the acceleration, which is pretty significant and goes from 0 to 100 in 7.9 seconds, which is quick by any measure. Of course, being an EV, you get your standard suite of safety features, including ADAS, level 2, lane keep assist, front collision warnings, and a 360-degree camera. You also get a whole lot of other features like drive modes, of which there are 3 that you can control from this dial here: Eco, Normal, and Sport. Sport, of course, gives you all that power, but reduces the range a little bit. Now, one of the things that is really cool about the battery on the Creta EV is the fact that it's a liquid-cooled battery, which is rated for both heating and cooling, which means that when you're out on the road, whether you're in an extremely cold place or an extremely hot place, your battery is always at optimum temperature, which means that you will get just as much range. Also, a notable fact is that this is a nickel metal chloride battery, which is something that most of the top EV manufacturers across the globe are using presently, just for its power density and for the fact that it really reduces the weight of the battery pack. Now, the Creta EV gets all 4 discs on all 4 ends, and we've usually noticed that when you're coming from a nice car to an EV, especially if it's not a born electric car, braking is the one that suffers because of the additional weight of the battery pack. But that is not the case with the Creta EV, and in fact, I found it really easy and intuitive to drive, even with just the regeneration modes at maximum, with what Hyundai call the I-pedal, which is basically a single pedal drive that as you lift off the throttle, it starts applying the brakes more gradually depending on how much distance you have in front of you from the vehicle or whatever object is in front of you. And it's really intuitive and it's not sudden. It's something that you can really get used to, and it makes driving out on the highway that much smoother. Another place that Hyundai have really won out with the Creta Electric, of course, is the ride and handling. Now, as far as the ride goes, there is a certain amount of pliance that really absorbs every single bump and undulation on the road without unsettling the car. That may be slightly due to the battery and weight distribution of this new EV, but it also has to do with the way the springs and suspension are tuned, which really lend it a smooth character. Now, one of the benefits of an electric vehicle is the weight distribution and the centralization of the masses, and that doesn't change on the Creta EV. You do get a slightly more engaging dynamic package than its ICE counterpart, slightly, but significant enough for it to be noticeable. Now, I think that really makes the Creta EV special to drive and really comfortable as well. So I think as a package, Hyundai have really nailed it when it comes to the Creta EV without really making it a vast departure from the ICE version of the Creta, but still giving it all the benefits of an electric car. Now, we do not know the prices of the Creta EV as yet. They will be announced at the Auto Expo, so we leave the price part of the verdict out of it and just evaluate it as a car. And when you do that, you realize what a complete package it is. Hyundai have managed to include all the benefits of an electric vehicle without really taking away from what the Creta is and what it has stood for all these years. And I think that is what will make this car stand out, not just to EV buyers, but also people who are in the market for a nice Creta and might consider this for its unique value offering. Now, of course, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you aren't subscribed to the Auto Today channel yet, this is your chance to do that now, because it means so much to us and our channel's growth. Thank you so much for watching. This is Didi signing off.